Okay, for pretty much all of us, forgetting feels like a failure, right? It's losing your keys, totally blanking on someone's name, or that feeling when a piece of information you know you studied just vanishes. We tend to think of our memory like this precious library that's slowly and very frustratingly just falling apart. But what if I told you that entire idea is just wrong? Seriously, what if forgetting isn't a bug in the system, but actually one of the most important features of a healthy, high-functioning brain? Today, we're going to dive into some really groundbreaking science that is flipping our whole understanding of memory completely on its head. For ages, the go-to metaphor for memory has been a leaky bucket. We pour information in, and over time, it just kind of passively drips away. But the new science is showing us something way more radical. The brain doesn't just have a bucket, it has a reset button. Forgetting isn't some passive decay. It's an active, high-energy process where your brain is purposefully working to erase stuff. So, if that's true, why are we all so convinced that forgetting is just an accident? Well, let's be honest, it's because it usually feels that way. It feels like something that's happening to us, not something our brain is actually doing on purpose. I mean, think about this. We've all been there. A certain song comes on the radio, and bam, you are instantly transported back to a painful memory. A breakup, maybe an argument. What's your immediate reaction? To change the station, right? To force your mind onto literally anything else. To just push that memory down. In that moment, your memory feels way too good, and forgetting suddenly seems like a superpower you desperately wish you had. Well, it turns out that very act, that pushing a memory away, is exactly where this new science begins. That isn't just some simple mental distraction. You are actively, physically engaging your brain's delete key. Forgetting, especially the intentional kind, isn't a bug at all. It's a feature. And there's a scientific term for this, of course. It's called motivated forgetting. It's this idea that we can consciously try to push a memory out of our awareness. That's called suppression, or even unconsciously bury it, which is known as repression. And this idea isn't brand new. It actually goes way back to thinkers like Nietzsche and Freud. But it's only now that we have the tools to actually see it happening inside our brains. And this table just breaks down the difference so perfectly. We used to think of forgetting as just passive decay. Memories just fading over time, a low-energy, lazy process. But active forgetting is the complete opposite. It's a high-energy, deliberate action driven by a top-down signal from the control center of your brain. And the outcome isn't just gradual fading, it's a targeted shutdown of your access to one specific memory. So how in the world does this actually work? How does your brain slam the brakes on an intrusive thought? Well, it turns out there's this fascinating little battle happening inside your head every single time you do this. The key mechanism here is called retrieval suppression. Think of it like this. Your brain already knows how to stop a physical action, right? Like pulling your hand back from a hot stove. Retrieval suppression is basically applying that exact same inhibitory control, but instead of stopping a physical action, it's stopping the mental act of remembering. You're shutting the memory down before it even fully surfaces. And this image shows the two key players in that battle. You've got the hippocampus, let's call it the librarian. Its job is to go and retrieve memories from the shelves. But then you have the prefrontal cortex, which is the CEO. And when you want to forget something, the CEO doesn't ask nicely. It sends a powerful stop signal directly to the librarian, halting the entire search process. It's a direct top-down command to shut down memory lane right now. Now, this all sounds great in theory, but you might be wondering, how can scientists actually measure an internal command to not think about something? Well, they came up with this really clever experiment called the think/no-think paradigm. So here's how it worked. They had people learn a bunch of word pairs, like ordeal roach. Then they'd show them the first word, ordeal, and tell them to either think about its partner, roach, or, and this is the crucial part, to actively not think about it. The results were pretty amazing. The words people were told to suppress, the no-think items, were actually harder to remember later on than words they hadn't even reviewed at all. The takeaway is crystal clear. Actively trying to forget something literally makes it harder for your brain to access. And this science, as you can imagine, opens up a really profound ethical door. If we're actually developing the ability to intentionally weaken or maybe even erase painful memories, should we? I mean, the argument for it is incredibly powerful. For someone who's suffering from severe PTSD, intrusive memories aren't just a little unpleasant, they are, in this person's words, a 24/7 hellish reality. The ability to just turn down the volume on those traumatic memories could mean the difference between a life of constant torment and a real chance at peace. The goal isn't about erasing history, it's about forgetting the terror. But of course, there are some very serious counterarguments. The President's Council on Bioethics raised some big concerns that this kind of therapeutic forgetting could have massive unintended consequences. Could it trivialize history? If a criminal could just dampen their own guilt, would that undermine our entire moral fabric? And what about us? Could we lose out on valuable chances for personal growth that only come from wrestling with those difficult memories? It's a deeply, deeply complex debate. All of this brings us right back to our central question. Now that we know about the brain's active, energetic, and deliberate process of forgetting, we kind of have to redefine what a healthy memory system even is. So here it is, the big takeaway. Forgetting isn't a sign of a system that's broken. It's a sign of a system that's working exactly the way it's supposed to. It is a core feature of an efficient, well-designed mind. Think about it. A brain that can't forget would be completely overwhelmed and inefficient, just cluttered with tons of useless data. Forgetting is the biological process that prunes old connections to make room for new ones. It lets us update our knowledge, adapt to new situations, and, maybe most importantly, move past trauma and protect our emotional well-being. A healthy brain doesn't just remember, it knows what to let go of. And that leaves us with one final provocative thought. As this science gets more and more advanced, we are moving closer to a world where we might have precise control over what we remember and what we forget. So the question is no longer just can we, but should we? And if you could, what would you choose to forget?